Okay, we are now live.
What's going on, XFF? I am Chicago Adam here hosting this brand new show, Flick and the Mac Attack show. It's the second Google Hangout of the year, and I'm here with Sean of the Ravens.
Hey, everybody.
What's going on, Sean?
It's been fun just trying to figure the league out and trying to make sure I got my team lined up. I got a few moves I got to make from a cap perspective, but feeling pretty good right now. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm feeling all right. My team isn't as good as I want it to be, but you're in a. I was examining your roster, and you seem to be in a better predicament than myself. But yeah, I'm ready to get the season underway. We're about 3 weeks away tomorrow?
I think so. What are your top? What do you think your top three challenges are? If you don't want to say the important ones, that's cool too.
Number one, I got a lot of veterans, so keeping them healthy. Jamal Charles, Frank Gore, But so that'd probably be my number one. I tried to solidify my running back position with a lot of depth, but they're still on the aging side. So that would be my number one. What about you?
For me, I got a couple of cap moves I got to make. Really, just one. Probably going to say goodbye to Mr. Warlow once I get rid of him and make my other taxi squad. And I got to figure out probably about I don't know, 4 or 5 2 years or less type drops, free drops. Once we kind of figure out what the NFL rosters look like, and then I'll be ready to go. So I'm feeling pretty good. I think I've got a couple of tight ends, even though I don't really have a lot of depth on my wide receiver in my wide receiver core. So I got tight ends to kind of help fill that, and feel best about my running back for sure. But of course, injuries. I think I'm pretty well covered on my Atlanta running backs and my Arizona running backs. Certainly, splitting carries is not going to work out very well for anybody. But to the extent that we've got some clear runners or running backs, I'll be in good shape.
Yeah. So for anybody who may be watching on YouTube or anywhere else, this is an extreme fantasy football league hosted on the My Fantasy League site. It's a group of 32 guys who, there might be a couple people who know each other, but really, none of us have any connections. We're just diehard fantasy and football fanatics. So we got 32 guys. It's like managing a real NFL roster. Basically, you got salary cap and all that. So we're going to talk about our league, our teams and what we might expect starting here in about 3 weeks.
Should be.
Who do we got? Yeah, who are we supposed to have coming on the show tonight, Sean?
Well, I'm about to get some links out. Mr. Let's see, New Orleans. Trying to look for my names here. And we've got actually a couple people watching us right now, which is exciting. We've got anyone who's watching this, but David Cars and Derek Jordan are watching right now. So we've got a little audience. We'll try to see if we can grow that today. And plus, I'll get a link out sometime tomorrow morning, early, should be pretty quick, on anyone that want to watch this after the fact. So we are live on YouTube right now. So maybe we'll get some mystery audience members.
Yeah. Why don't we start there? D. Jordan. He is the owner of the Knicks. The Knicks in basketball. It's the Giants here in Football League. And so he had posted a topic for us last week to talk about. And he wanted to know what was our mentality going to be going into this year. You're brand new, so this is your rookie year. This is my second season in the league. Third overall of the league. So he just wanted to know what's the mentality going in. I guess I'll start that out. My mentality. Last year, I was the only team in XFF history to blow my entire roster up. When I came into the league, there's a amnesty clause where you can drop 5 players, or you can drop your entire team, but you only have free agency to pick players up. So being it was the first free agency season, and everybody had signed all the players the previous year to pretty much long-term deals, 3-4 years. 4 years being a max deal you can give a player. It put me in a bind, but I think last year I ended up finishing 10-6, missed the playoffs. After starting 0-6, so I was really excited about. I think actually no, I finished 9-7, so I lost one game the remainder of the season. But anyways, so my mentality this year is going to be to keep building, keep trying to get younger, because I have a lot of veterans from that free agency auction where, Jamal Charles, Frank Gore, who I signed again this year to another 1-year deal. So that's kind of my mentality. I barely missed the playoffs, so I'd be kind of bummed if I didn't make the playoffs this year. I guess we'll get into that a little later too, as far as setting goals for this season and future seasons. But what about you? What's your mentality as a brand new rookie?
Well, really for me, I think certainly I want to make sure I have all the rules, understand all the rules and what have you. And I think I'm there from that perspective. But, looking at the fantasy league, I'm not as much worried about, the cap and all those things right now. It's just making sure I got the right starters out there. I certainly have a decision to make for week 1 to say, okay, am I going to start Justin Forsett or am I going to start Chris Ivory? So those kinds of decisions, but that's pretty much what you get from pretty much any fantasy league. So I'm kind of at the point where that's where I am. I'm not worried too much about rules and things like that. It's just more or less, just playing the games and I'm watching and see what happens. Certainly keeping track of preseason games and what's going on, but it doesn't necessarily mean that much. But certainly, there's certainly in-season rules like taxi squad and, the whole, stealing players and what have you, trying to figure out if there's players that are worth taking, for draft picks and even putting players out there that maybe I'm not as high on anymore. Hopefully somebody takes them and I'll get some draft picks for them. So it'll be fun. Certainly the next few weeks will really ramp everything up and really get everyone, focused on the league.
Yeah. And if you're watching and you aren't a part of this league, we also have a taxi squad. Just like the NFL, you can claim another player off another team's taxi squad, which would require a 2 draft picks, one that the round they were taken in, and then a later round. So yeah, that was kind of a key issue, caused a lot of problems last year. So we're going to try to cut down on those problems this year. I think you're kind of in charge of AFC taxi squad and injured reserve, and myself on the NFC side. Just trying to keep everybody, I don't know what you say, in balance or whatever. But
yeah, and I think just making sure if they're a rookie or their second year, it's fine. Anything else is not. And I believe during the season, if somebody puts someone out there illegally, they can be stolen instantly by posting a message. I think there's a message group already set up or will be set up for that. So I haven't seen that before, but that will be very interesting to see if anybody steals someone that's really good.
and likewise, you can have a player drop that. I took a lot of hate last year, which I'm fine with. I don't mind being the lead dickhead, but I was on the ball as far as keeping an eye on taxi and IR on the NFC side, because that just gives you an advantage for myself. If I can catch somebody doing something illegal and they got to get a cap hit or lose a player, or what have you. So, this year there is a warning that goes out. We've already had a couple teams in violation of this taxi rule, and those players have been moved back to the active roster versus last year. I think they were just dropped immediately with a cap hit. So there is each team, I think, gets one warning. And then afterwards you can get your player dropped with a cap hit. So be careful of that going forward. And as far as IR will open, I think the day before or the week of opening kickoff. And you can play this year. You can put suspended players on IR. Last year you couldn't.
Oh well.
So I have two. I have Martavis Bryant and Darrellington that's going to go on IR this year for me. Even though they're not on IR, they're suspended. So that's a legal move. That saves you. It's only a 25% salary of the guy's normal salary. So that could be a big help if you do have suspended players. Likewise, if you have a guy who is on the NFL, I don't know what you call it, partial IR, where they're only on IR half the season. You have to keep an eye on it because when that NFL team moves that player back to the active roster, you only have 2 days to do that in the XFF League. So otherwise, you can get that player dropped with a full salary cap hit, not just the 25% hit.
Oh yeah, wow. Well, we've got our first guest. We got Dustin Kesey. Dustin, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What team are you from? I'm not. Haven't seen
Carolina Panthers.
Oh, you're Carolina. Okay, one of the new guys. Awesome. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
What's going on, Dustin? This is Adam. I can't see you, buddy, but that's fine.
Oh, you know what? I think I might be. Let's see.
I can't see anybody. I don't know what's. I have a blank
I can
screen
see
right now. So.
I think when they come in, it must be default to can't see them, so I fixed that. Cool.
I had my camera turned off, so you turned it on for me. Thanks.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay.
I didn't know I could control yours. Thought I could just override. I can mute people too, which is nice. Sometimes.
So,
well,
Dustin.
Yeah, I guess I just came in to say hi and introduce myself to some of the other team members who are in the podcast and who are watching. And also, I guess I put out the power rankings this past week. And I guess if you guys could comment on how you feel maybe your team ranks in the NFC, or how you felt they did overall.
Yeah, I'll go first on that. I actually had that on the docket as one of the topics to talk about. So we'll just go with the NFC side now, since you didn't do an AFC side. My biggest surprise was Green Bay at number 15. I really thought he was loaded on the offensive side of the ball with plenty of depth. I mean, he only has one running back, and running backs reign supreme in this league this year. Next year, that'll change. So I kind of would have had him somewhere in the middle of the pack, maybe. I actually went through and kind of just did a 4-tier system of my own. And, because a couple of these teams could fall anywhere, in a 3 to 4 range, really. But tier 1, I would have had Rams, Niners, Lions, and Cowboys. And really no specific order. I think any of those guys could be number 1. Tier 2, I would put Eagles, Cardinals, Bears, and Saints. Tier 3 would be Packers, Panthers, Seahawks, and Falcons. Then Tier 4 would be Redskins, Giants, Vikings, and Tampa Bay.
Where'd you have the Lions? I missed that.
In Tier 1, anywhere between 1 and 4.
Okay.
I don't think he's a number 1 team. I think he is the 4th team. But any of those top Rams, Niners, Cowboys, I think any of those guys could be number 1 right now.
Yeah.
But otherwise, yeah, I think that was a really good ranking.
Yeah, I thought the Packers would have been a little higher. I'm not as familiar with the other teams. I've been helping Jason from the Packers, just trying to get him up to speed on the league and what have you. And I'm with him in another league as well in the baseball league. And so I was a little surprised that they were so low. That's definitely the thing that stood out to me.
Yeah, to give you a little insight on how I came up with the rankings and what system I used, I actually took and kind of pivot charted the players from last year. On the top, I believe I did 130, maybe 150, and took those players and kind of pivot charted it and ranked who scored the most points last year on those players, and then I took in the factor some of the rookies. I projected those in. So it was just a quick glance, kind of a high-level view of here's what their quarterbacks did, here's what the running backs did. This is, do I see regression? Do I see this continuing? So, but yeah, your feedback's very positive. I think I might have been a little tough on the Packers myself. I think because after a couple of his key receivers that I think are maybe more health concerns, Sammy Watkins being one of them. I don't have it pulled up in front of me here, but
yeah, he is.
Yeah, I think there was a couple guys that I was a little concerned with long term.
Yeah, he's got Watkins, Edelman, and Keenan Allen.
Yeah, so all three of those guys are, left the season last year with injuries or missed games with injuries. So it was.
Yeah. Sorry, I was going to say, and I think Edelman was in the last week or so had like an injury scare, like they took him off the field, and then they said like, oh, he's fine, just one of those training camp things, But yeah, he's coming back, so there's definitely a mystery there for sure.
Yeah, and they also brought in that young guy who's now playing in the slot, and
Amendola.
No, the Amendola actually fell down in the depth chart. I saw today that. I have to really know my facts before I start talking about it, but I was reading something today about the receiver set there, and that he may not get many targets this year with the new guys coming in and filling some of those roles. But I didn't mean to come in and hijack, and I just wanted to say hi.
No, no problem.
But I'll continue to watch, but I'll log off. But I appreciate you having me.
Great. And you got the link to go check it online, and then we'll post it out later so anybody can go back and watch the video. Awesome.
Real quick before you go, Dustin. Where do you have yourself finishing? I can't remember.
I've got my team ranked 6th, I believe. So I'm kind of in between the second tier. I'm real confident in my team. I took it over. This is my first year, so I had the 5 drops that really kind of allowed me to get back into the game financially. I think I was sitting in a real tough cap situation when I took the team over, and now I have $20 million in cap room with the amnesty drops that I was able to use. And I feel like I made the move for Demaryius Thomas this year, so I've got a better receiver. Tavon's, been performing well in this style, and I think Miller's going to be in the top 2 or 3 running back this year for sure. So Tyrod Taylor, if he can stay healthy, I think offensively I'm set now. Reed is a tight end if he can stay healthy. And then I have a lot of defensive pieces too. I think the previous owner did a good job of stockpiling some great young defensive players that are cheap, that are starting to take over starting roles. So I think I kind of was lucky when I took the team over from that aspect, because defense is certainly my weak point from a knowledge standpoint.
Did you see the history of the Panthers? The first inaugural year, he was actually in the Super Bowl. And then the following year, I think he must have thought he was in cap trouble, or not sure what his thoughts were, but he traded away Antonio Brown, traded away everybody. Ended up with $100 million, I think it was somewhere around there, salary cap hit last year. Now that's down to what? I think about $40 million still this year, probably. But
it was like about 30-some million, but I got it cut down to about 11. So.
Oh, that definitely helps.
Yeah, but yeah, I did look at the history, and I saw some of the trades he made, trading Dez, trading Tyler Lockett, trading Antonio Brown, as you mentioned. Not to mention a couple other younger players that he traded that I probably wouldn't have made those trades. But I think whatever he did, he ended up giving me a well-rounded team, and I'm trying to make one more trade, actually with the Packers, before the season starts, to hopefully really balance my team out and maybe propel myself in the playoffs this year. So.
I wish you the best of luck, Dustin.
All right, thank you, guys.
Great, thank you. Thanks for joining.
Hey, no problem.
And welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so we don't have anybody else that's joined us yet. I just posted the link out on our message or in our chat group to see if we can get anybody else. There could be some
nobody yet
stuff. Yeah, but I don't have anybody else on here yet. I've sent the links out, but
that's
I
cool.
think
We'll keep
just keep going.
Keep rolling.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, that was Dustin of the Carolina Panthers. He joined this league. This is a year-round league. Playoffs end late December, somewhere in there, January. Super Bowl. And then immediately, you get about a month break, but come about end of February, beginning of March, you're right back at it, preparing for the rookie draft that hits the first part of May, and then you got free agency auction that hits in June, I believe. So this is a year-round league where everybody tries to stay active every month. If you're not watching your team every day or every other day, you're gonna fall behind. So I make sure I log in several times a day. I guess I'm an addict, as my wife says. But it's a hobby. It's what we love to do. So
Yeah, it's I've never been in a year-round league before, so this has definitely been an experience. But it's fun to have. Every couple of months, some big things happen. Obviously, we started with some of the moves that start before franchising and transition, tagging like they do in the NFL. Obviously with some adjustments for a fantasy league, and then doing the draft in May, and then free agency going on in June. So it's definitely been fun to kind of follow that through.
yeah. So we were talking about mentality going into this season. Do you have a goal set for yourself this year and maybe next 3 years?
Well, I mean, for me, definitely my goal is to make the playoffs, and at the same time, try to build. If I can add some pieces during the year through the waiver process, that would be great. But I definitely went through free agency and tried to pick up some guys that might be backup running backs or third string running backs that might have some opportunity. Some are older, some are younger, certainly, but really my focus, if I can make the playoffs, then the season's a success. Certainly I want to win the Super Bowl, but the first things first, let's get in the playoffs. Let's get through the first 3-4 weeks and see how everything goes. Certainly I have certain expectations on players, and we'll see if they can make it happen for me.
Yeah, like I said, I'd be disappointed if I didn't make the playoffs because I think I filled my team with plenty of depth, especially at the running back position. Not so much at the wide receiver, but I'm going to start 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers, probably every game. For those who may be watching on YouTube, this league, this year, the running back is far more valuable than any other position. It's 2-to-1 on points versus wide receiver, basically 2-to-1 rushing yards. So for every 10 yards, you get 2 points versus 1. That'll change next year. So you see a lot of running backs on 1-year deals this year because they are so high priced. You see Adrian Peterson went for over $30 million in the AFC side in free agency this past June. So that's like a fifth of a total team's salary cap. So that's pretty crazy. I mean, that just tells you how important that position is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think I have a team that can get there. I need to add a couple pieces, linebacker position, add some depth some other places, but my goal this year is to make the playoffs. So, over the next 3 years, I think I can continue that up. I have a lot of draft picks next year, 2 first-rounders. Some people don't care for draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, who was just on here, his previous owner traded every draft pick away next season. So that could hurt him in the long run. But yeah, what about some regrets that you may have this offseason?
Really, for me, the main regret is letting LaShawn McCoy go without transition tagging him. He was like 18,000 or 18 million, however we want to talk to it, and I felt like he had some off-season troubles. He's off injured. I thought maybe, hey, I could probably just pick him up in the draft and transition somebody else. But that was definitely a very big mistake. Potentially looks very big right now. So that's the one right there. I had to go and pay like $16,000 for Forsett, although he is my fourth running back. Had to pay $16,000 for him, and of course, there's depends on if or when I want to play Ivory, but that's the big regret. I don't really have anything else that I would just throw out there. I know I certainly paid a hefty sum for David Johnson, but I would do that again and again because I think he's going to be a stud this year.
Right. And I was kind of in the same boat with McCoy, Shady. I also had him last season. And I was thinking about transitioning him. I thought the NFC was in a lot more of a pickle and salary cap money. So I thought he'd go for less. Transition tag, I think I would have been around $24 million.
Mm-hmm.
And free agency, I think he went less than $20 million, I believe.
Wow.
But I ended up eyeing a couple other guys. So
yeah, I was gonna say in the AFC, I think he was like 27K, something like that. And I think I didn't do a good enough job of really looking to see how much cap people are gonna have. And there was once it everyone was dropped, I was like, oh crap, there is a ton of cap out there. That's why you saw Adrian Peterson like 34 and Forsett 16 and plenty of people in the 20. I think Charles was 30 plus, somewhere in there. So yeah, that was definitely a colossal fail on my part.
And that's what these guys that don't log in for days on end. That is a big key contributor. I crunched all the numbers. I kind of thought what I could get players for, and I was pretty accurate for the most part. Do that in the off season, go through your other teams, see who they're not going to have next year. Yeah. Obviously, it may vary a little bit, but you'll have a good idea of how much cap you'll have, how much cap your opponents will have.
Yeah.
And then you can start your strategy plan there. So I would start doing that if I was the other owners. As soon as the season is over, you get that month or two of downtime. That's really where you should focus your time. So yeah, as far as my regrets would be, number one would be in free agency, not snagging a linebacker. I kind of fell in love with these running backs and stocking up on them, thinking, once they start performing, I can use them as trade bait. But now it's looking like I'm going to have to open the season with not as much linebacker talent and depth as I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, some of these other teams, I think it was Seahawks that got, let me look here real quick. He got one of the players that a linebacker that I really had my eye on. I thought he would go for a lot more than that. I was in a bidding war with 3 linebackers, and I didn't have enough money to bid on him at the time. Jarrell Freeman ended up going for $7.5 million, which is a steal. So that would be my number one regret, passing up on all the linebackers. And number 2, God damn it, I hate to say this, but would be taking Joey Bosa number 2 overall in the draft. He's not even signed with the San Diego Chargers. He's being a little, what do you call it? He's just being a pain in my butt. But
it comes out. It comes out.
Yeah, I know, man.
I forgot. I had forgotten about it. It was one thing I was kind of curious about, and certainly wasn't expecting him to not sign. From that perspective, that certainly wasn't something that I thought of either.
So, no, definitely not. And I guess I should have looked back on Chargers history. But still, I mean,
yeah.
How do you not sign your number 1 draft pick? Who they took 4th overall, I believe. And
isn't there some cap? There's a certain amount of money that they can pay them. I thought there was. Maybe there is.
Right. His deal is right. He's going to get the same money no matter what, but his deal is somewhat along the lines of guaranteed money. If he wants, if he sucks and he's out of the league in 3 years, amount of money, and the Chargers are only wanting to give him well below that amount.
Okay.
So you know what? If if you think you're gonna suck, you know, I don't see the point. I just don't get the philosophy on that. I mean, sign the damn contract, make your millions, and if you do suck, guess what? You still got $40-50 million. So
yeah, and they can kind of I think it's the kind of people that suck, and you find out pretty quickly are more like cornerbacks or offensive players. The rest of the defense, they can kind of get away with some stuff. Yeah, they can probably tell they're not doing very well, but there's a lot of room for them to improve and what have you along the way. Whereas cornerbacks, obviously, they can just look horrible and move out pretty quickly.
yeah. So Joey Bosa, sign the damn contract and get your ass in camp and come perform for me because I'm counting on you. I got 4 defensive end on my roster, and obviously the rookie draft is before free agency. So at the time of the rookie draft, I only had 2. Mario Edwards, who was hurt, they didn't even know if he was going to play again, especially this year. But it's looking like he's going to play. Who I actually drafted last year, somewhere in the 5th round, I think. Ended up trading him away, and somehow I got him back. So I'm really excited about Mario, if he can stay healthy and keep his weight down. JPP really hurt me last year. I was really counting on him. I'm paying him over $7 million this year. So I need him to perform also.
But I ended up signing when he came back?
No, he didn't. Not at all.
Okay.
Probably not even 50% of what he was producing in 2015. So they're saying he's going to play without a club without that cast club, whatever you want to call it, this year. Yeah. So I need him to get his numbers back up, close to what he was. So yeah, that's the main reason I decided to take Bosa. My number 2 would have been Miles Jack. I was going on the defensive side of the ball either way. And so in the 3rd round, I ended up getting, Jalen Smith. So he's probably not going to play at all this year. If he did, it'd be in our playoffs, maybe week 12 of the season, but I don't think that he's going to play. So that kind of hurt me. But like I said, I did get him because there was only one defensive end in free agency. That was Cameron Wake, who was worth anything at all.
Yeah.
Everybody else was garbage, and I didn't think I could touch him. Crunching the numbers, I thought he'd go for close to $10 million. I got him at just above 5, so I was pretty excited about that.
Nice.
So those would be my number 2 or 2 mulligans that I would do, and you got to take 2 or 3 years and see how the scenario plays out with Bosa and Jack versus Pick and Jack, but.
Sure. And I think the free agency was pretty interesting for me when I kind of look back. I mean, the 12-hour thing, actually, it was funny because I was in the other league I do that's basically year-round is baseball, and it had a 24-hour clock, but it didn't have like that minimum bid where it wasn't like eBay like that. It was like everybody knew what your bid was, and then you bid higher than that. And the 12-hour thing, came a lot faster than I was thinking in my head, and certainly there's guys very early, and I think another one of the other radio shows talked about this, that it was really interesting, the first 12 hours or in the first 20 hours, how many auctions ended with guys going for much less than maybe we thought they would go for. And so that was very interesting to me, and certainly something, may not happen next year, but that was really one nuance that I wasn't expecting. For me, it's like definitely got to be on your game from the beginning if you want players that you want. It's obviously something I learned out of that.
Right. And, for me, I think the draft moves a little fast. I'd like to see it slow down just a little bit, maybe go to a 24-hour timer.
Yeah.
I don't really see a point in rushing to get it done in 3 or 4 days. Next year, we are supposed to have a live draft where everybody meets up in Vegas. If we need at least 16 owners, so half. So we'll see what happens with that. I look forward to that. Would you be there in Vegas? Or?
It's kind of a long story. Most likely not. Since we're having some fun out here. I sort of got banned, kind of a home ban. Um, Went up there for a bachelor party a couple years ago, and so I am patiently waiting for approval to go back, which I think is going to be for when our daughter is 21. Is kind of the idea. So it might be a couple years away.
Oh no.
So it's a very sad story. Luckily, it had a happy ending. But
right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. If that does happen, I'm sure we'd miss you. I'm not sure how that would work with owners not being there because we're only going to be there for like 2 or 3 days, so that's the plan anyway. So I don't know if he's planning on speeding the draft up, making it a less time. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I saw a little of the plan. I think that I've been learning as I'm learning more about this Google Hangout on Air thing. It's kind of interesting because we can actually, we're actually live on a YouTube page basically right now. So maybe there's some opportunity there to leverage some of that functionality so that people that aren't there can still sort of, get some feel for it. Hard to say, obviously there could be a lot of noise or what have you, but and certainly we can't have people sitting around with, laptops in front of them because I think that'll just add more, that echo thing. It's better that you and I are both in 2 different locations to make this thing work. So, we'll have to see. Maybe some technology we can at least have people that aren't there be able to, enjoy at least some of the draft.
Yeah. Yeah, this is again our first time doing this Google Hangout. Where are you broadcasting from?
I'm in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm out here in the cornfields of Indiana.
Nice.
Let's move on to our third topic. Do you see potential bust rookies, taken in this year's draft, and maybe sophomore players taken last year? Do you have any on your list that you're keeping an eye on? Put up a no trade clause to that player.
I think there's some interesting guys. I think from a guys that I think could do well. I think there's some people. There's some like Funchess. I think has an opportunity. I've been trying to get him from Matt. I think he's got a great opportunity to do something. I don't know. It's hard to say. I think that people are thinking with Benjamin coming back that they think his stats are going to go down. And I think there's still some debate there, but there could be some potential there. I think the biggest thing that I kind of worry about in some of the rookies are injuries and guys just getting a chance to play. I mean, we don't have high expectations on a lot of them. I think Coleman from the Browns has a really good opportunity, but he could completely fail if Gordon comes back. And they drafted so many wide receivers that there could be some challenges there. I think the Texans have a ton of, obviously they drafted a few wide receivers as well. And it's like, what's going to happen? I think certainly Hopkins will be fine, but it's hard to say what the rest, what that wide receiver core is going to look like and who's going to be, the number 2 at the end of the day. So those are kind of the ones that the players I've been looking at, kind of more, they're ones that more affect my team. But what are your big highlights?
I don't know that I have really anybody that affects my team necessarily. I did draft Jay Ajayi, Miami running back, in the first round last year. I was hoping he was gonna, solidify the role, and then they brought in Foster. But he may be hurt first play of the season, so who knows? He needs to shore up his pass blocking and pass catching, to really be the number 1 guy.
Yeah.
I think Gase likes to use a 3-down back. So I'm not going to put him in the bust category. I'm a little worried about that. But the big talk right now is about Doyle Green Beckham.
Yeah.
Titans just traded him this year. He's on my team. I just made a trade. I think it was last week. I gave up Jalen Strong for DB Green Beckham. So now that he's on Philly, I don't know if it's a better spot for him necessarily.
I think it is. I think it is. Aguilar is been seeing some bad reports on him and some struggles there. I think that's a really good the change of scenery and going to the Eagles. I think is going to be a good combo for him. We'll see. Obviously, he's had some troubles, and you're well aware of that.
Oh yeah.
But I think he may not make it, but I think this is a good shot, another kind of second chance for him.
Two other guys that I passed on in this rookie draft who I wasn't very high on, just from a personal opinion, would be Derrick Henry. I don't like his running style really. Not too many running backs these days, are, I don't know how to say it. He's more of the Trent Richardson, esque. I'd hate to put him in that category right now, but I want to see how he pans out, and also there's been some negative reports on defensive end DeForest Buckner. So it'll be interesting to see what he does in San Francisco.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say with overall, certainly we've already had a handful of at least a few rookies that have had injuries that are probably pretty much out for the year. And I'm sure there's more injuries to come overall, but those are the things that, hopefully those things, if that happens, it gets sorted out later, or earlier rather than later, I should say.
Looks like we got somebody here joining us.
We do. We got Rinku is here. If I pronounce that right, sorry.
That's correct.
Awesome.
Let me see if I can get this to work.
Oh, there you are. We can see it. We saw you for a second there.
Saw me for a second. Uh-oh.
Where are you coming from? Where are you calling from?
I don't understand why it's acting up. Well,
it could be, are you on your phone?
Yeah.
Okay. It could just be signal, potentially. It might not show you. We can hear you fine.
Okay. He says I'm already in a call. I tried it earlier. And,
there you are.
No, it won't hold. I don't know why. It says I'm already in a call. I tried it earlier, and then I hung up when I realized what I was doing. Now I think it thinks I'm connected again.
That's all right. We'll go on with it. So, Rinku.
Well, is it blocked? Can you hear and see?
I can definitely hear, and I can see I can see you now.
Blind by that bald head.
Yeah, that's me. That's it. Oh. Hey guys, great to finally meet and greet somebody in the league.
Yeah, welcome. Great to have you.
So Rinko, tell us a little bit about your team and who you took over and maybe some expectations.
Yeah, I'm excited to join. First of all, was referred here by the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Cosgrove told me a lot about the league, the action, and a lot of movement, a lot of knowledgeable owners, so I was excited to jump in. Got a hold of the Oakland Raiders, as Chris Berman would love to say, and it's a pretty interesting roster compared to a lot of the other ones in the league. Trying to understand without learning and what the history was of the team. Yeah. I want to dream that he probably had a lot of high caliber, high expensive players that fell off the books, because I inherited a team with like $50 million in salary cap space. So either they were the Bidwell family descendants and they didn't want to spend any money, or a lot of players came off the books. So it's a roster that had a couple of studs. Carson Palmer at quarterback. He's a top 6, top 7 guy. Des Bryant was hurt last year, but a top 5, top 6 guy at his position. Some solid depth at running back. Jonathan Stewart, Jeremy Hill, Thomas Rawls were some of the headliners on the team. Looks like the rookie draft, the previous owner had some good mixture. Keith Marshall out of Georgia with the Redskins. Leonte Carew, who's a darling of a lot of websites and a lot of fan favorites this year. So he tried that a little bit. Had some defensive players too. So got a lot of money. trying to figure out what to do with it. There have been some action trades in the last few weeks. I could have potentially dropped somebody who's expensive and try to make a run, or go dynastic and maybe mail it in that regard. But obviously, as we all know, when you take over a team in a new league with a lot of competitive people, a lot of high action movement type things like this league has, it's difficult to not want to come in and compete immediately. You're going to smack talk with the person that brought you in, with new owners, and you want to show up and show out initially. So you have to rein it in a little bit, but you want to also put your best foot forward. So that's kind of the capsule, I think, of the Raiders.
Great. Hey, real quick, where are you from? Where are you now?
I'm located in Mobile, Alabama, on the Alabama coast, down here in the South. Grew up here for about 30 years. Worked and lived on the East Coast, New York and Baltimore, for about 10 to 12 years of my life. About 10, 15 years ago, lived in Orlando for about 4 years prior to returning here to the Gulf Coast, and so have been here just for the last 4 or 5 years.
Cool. Great. I saw you're a MD. What's that? I'm just curious.
I'm a physician in cardiology. Work for a small group here in Mobile. Was with a larger hospital group in Orlando for about 5-6 years after my training on the East Coast, and returned home. And so I've been here for a few years, and may go back to Florida, may go back to the East Coast, but right now it's just being home. So
nice, cool. We got a doctor in the house.
Well, I don't know if that's good or bad.
Maybe you can help fix some of these.
Some of the online demands of XFF are pretty stringent, so I already felt badly. I know last week on one of the commissioner show, we had traveled to Canton for the Hall of Fame enshrinement to watch Favre get in, and then Delta Airlines computer crash mishap of Monday and Tuesday of last week. I was stuck in an airport hotel. I was trying to call the commissioner's show, and at one point, I responded to a text, and he saw my telephone number, and he said on the air, I could hear him, he said, "Looks like we've got somebody from the 251 about to call." And every time I dialed the number, I couldn't get in. So I don't know what happened, but I was trying to put my foot forward and show that I'm actionist, I'm an active owner. I'm trying to get in here and get in here. So I'm excited to at least get on some communication. Looks like it's going to be fun trying to make a video or do a show and talk some topics. So.
Well, and I think, certainly when there's big events like, I think, rookie draft, I think even free agency rookie draft, you do have some hours. There's some flexibility there and when you can, make your picks or when you can, bid on free agency when we get there next time. But, so, not crazy stringent, I think, from you don't have to be at a place in 2 hours, but, something I'm sure you'll be working on trying to get your schedule around that.
Yeah, definitely we'll do so. And then, obviously we're all in Eastern, all in different time zones. You've got folks in the Eastern, I know some people in the Western, and over the years working with large leagues that have, widespread people. And I think one of the beauties and fun parts that the common nomenclature, the common folk, in the last few years, the explosion of fantasy football, we miss and forget that it's not just a bunch of zealots that are fantasy football nerds or fantasy football overdoers that are football fans that are too crazy and too much into this hobby. You do build a lot of relationships. You meet a lot of folks from around the country, and it's not all leagues and all people that are just unknowns to each other. You actually make a lot of friends, build a lot of relationships. There are a lot of people in this industry and in this hobby that have developed friendships that are multi-year long, and you know people for a long time. So that's always neat to balance too. And whether what kind of life you have, a family or not, or single or young or older, it's neat to do that too. So that's part of it. I think you're right, juggling times and time zones and whatnot. So.
Yeah, and I know. I didn't play a lot of fantasy sports way back. Before we could go on Yahoo or ESPN and run leagues, but certainly I've done my first. I did a couple of leagues that were pretty manual, where people were keeping track on a spreadsheet or what have you, and then we get into now we can do it on the websites and what have you, and now that they have apps and you can do stuff on your phone, it just makes it's a whole different world.
Well, it's neat, and that's exactly the way you said it. You date yourself in this hobby when you hear that kind of talk. And my talk in my time was early 90s, late 80s. Yeah. It wasn't even a spreadsheet. It was a steno pad. It was a paper. And when you talk to an old dog, old dogs like us, you had to use the USA Today newspaper because your local paper probably didn't have the defensive stats. So if you were in an IDP league early in this hobby, like early 90s, you had to use a USA Today because it had the tackles, the assists, and all the minute IDP details. That was the only source you had. And everybody was calling you on a landline at 11:55 on Sunday to get their lineup in.
Yep.
There was always a drama story sometime in your league. Every year there's some drama story of the guy did call me, or he left a voicemail with your mother or your sister or someone at your house, and they did start Isaac Bruce the day he caught 233 yards against the Saints or something like that. And or everyone's blowing up your phone on Tuesday because they think you got the first edition of the USA Today and have, quote, run the numbers. How am I looking? What do I need tonight on Monday Night Football? And that's the old days of this. And now, the way you said it, 10 years, 15 years later was at least a spreadsheet, as you mentioned, on a laptop or a computer. And 10 more years is, as you said, on your phone in your pocket, with the snap of a finger. So it's funny, but yeah, that's it.
Well done, well said.
Well, Rinku, welcome to the league. I just wanted to, you mentioned the $50 million in cap space that your team had. I was going to give you a little update. The previous owner actually missed the first 2 days of free agency. He was MIA.
Did he sign anybody? Because I didn't think he signed
No.
anybody.
Especially not the first 2 days.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually thought it was a different week, and I think he was at a wedding or work or something. But yeah, he thought it was a different weekend. So that's what happened to your team. And also, I wanted to show you, if you are on the home page of the My Fantasy League.
I'll go there.
All right.
And jump in there now. Okay.
If you click home, or no, sorry, My Leagues, all the way up in the top left corner.
Top left corner, My Leagues, yep.
And there's a drop-down box that'll have the previous years of this league.
14 and 015, so I could kind of see what was happening.
You can go back, look at trades, look at signings and drops, and of other teams also. So if you have free time and want to explore the history of this league,
always
you may need a password. I think Commission might be able to reset it if you can't get into those. But that's something for you to check out.
Definitely, that's a good advice and good insight. I've been doing the one on the trade bar where you can sort and sift who did what trades and what offers, and I can see kind of what had been offered to this roster, or this owner rather, what offers you got rejected. So that's a very good, insightful tool, and I think in large leagues like this that are complicated with cap and dollars, IDP, the Cincinnati Bengals owner, Joe Cosgrove, and I are in a 32-team style that's like this, all in one, no splits like this. But you have to learn that way. You're exactly right. It's looking at transactions and trades gives you a barometer, so you know if you're an outlier or you're doing something outrageous that you're making a move, and then 60 seconds later 10 owners are popping their eyebrows up and saying, what the hell just happened here, what are you doing? So you don't want to be the fresh fish either. So now that'll be useful. That explains it, because I was thinking about the cap dollars that are thrown around on some of the big name free agents from what I had heard, and I kind of really didn't seem to have that 30 or 26 or heavy-handed dollar guy, and so that kind of made sense, and that would explain it. Okay. Yeah.
So hopefully that helps. And also, my advice to a brand new owner, this is a cutthroat league, so you have got to know your rules. 86 pages of rules in this league.
Yeah.
Print them off and look at them while you're on the pooper. I go back to that almost on a weekly basis. I pretty much have them memorized now. So that is an extreme advantage when you know all the rules and you're not going to get caught, messing up an IO or messing up a taxi or any other rule.
Okay. And if you need help finding that, there's a way that you can get to the PDF link from the homepage.
Yeah. Got it. I've got it downloaded already. Yeah, and I've been trying to read through those and the updates and some of those. Very useful. Thank you. Yeah.
I think the big thing, if I was going to say for a new user, kind of new owner where they are now, and I'm sure Adam can add to it, but there's definitely some cut down days that are coming up that you want to pay attention to. I think the commish posted an article about that, or a message board topic about that. There's also making sure you're, obviously you're down to the 53 by the first day, and then just making sure on the taxi squad, making sure you only put players over there that are 2 years or less. And if you have players that you don't like, that you think are just worthless now, or you feel you need to drop, you can just move them to taxi squad if they're 2 years or less, and just drop them from there. You just have to post on the message board that you did that, and you won't lose any cap for that. So those are some of the key things I think over the next few weeks. But I don't know, Adam, if you have something else there.
No, that was kind of like you said, posting and then doing. There's two separates. As far as the one, I guess my first main thing was, am I missing, like, on the front page, is there an easier, like these shows that we're doing now, that comes over communication, over an email or something. There's not a button on the front here that I'm missing that has all these channels for all these things, right?
The week of, like, Kamish posted our show up on the front page of the site earlier today when we sent him the link. So
got it. Okay,
so you can see that. You can see
section.
that. Yeah, right. That's the only way. Aside from message board thread, we try to post all the links in the message board thread so you can go back months or years from now and rewatch these shows.
Okay. No, and that was the main thing, and I was trying to make sure I didn't miss. Like, I saw some commentary in the league chat. I think I'm new, so I think last week or a couple of weeks ago, Kamish had me fill out an interview, and asked me my questions. I answered a bunch of stuff about the league and then myself and this and that. So then somebody else did it, and then I saw in some chat somebody said, yeah, that was good to hear. So I was thinking, like, did I miss clicking someplace? Is there like a new bio section or something? But it seemed mostly right here on the front, like you said.
Well, one thing I would say, there's some setup that you can do for, I think it's under the, I don't know if I can verbally explain exactly where it is, but where you can put in alerts. So, like, I have it set up so I get email alerts. I get text as well, but you get more via the email section, where you'll get an email every time, like, new article's posted, or when a trade happens or what have you. So if if you're not sure on that, let me know. I can give you some better instructions over email or what have you, because that really helps.
And you can You can also customize your home page.
Yes, that I remember on your own thing, and how you want the alignment and whether you want to see stuff and how you want to shape it. Yes.
Right. So yeah,
and I try to update my bio info, my cell phone, my email, so people can do that and reach you like that. I think.
Careful.
I think first blunder, you want to make sure when you're doing the league chat thing, if you're trying to do a secret message in bold to one person as opposed to 10, just keep. It was a little tricky that first day when I had like 4 people trying to talk to me, because I was like, okay, wait a minute, make sure you send the right sentence to the right guy. Oops,
I still mess up on that. Like, I feel like it's going to the right person. I'm already in a conversation, and then it flips it for some reason.
Well, the trickiness is it's a singular black colored bold. It's not multiple colors per owner. It'd be cool if once you started dialoguing with 2 or 3 people, if it was green and red and so forth, with the name out to the side. Like if it was Colts, it's kind of a blue, and then it would be blue lighting and whatnot, so that would be kind of useful. Because then you end up with, as the box traverses time, there's no scroll down, so you can't see what you previously sent or wrote to somebody. That's kind of tricky too.
Exactly. The one thing I would say is the app. I don't know if you use an iPhone. I use an iPhone, so it works really well. But the chat in there is a lot better because I can instantly see who sent it to me and who I sent it to.
Okay, I'm Android. I'm Galaxy, but I'm Samsung, but I'll do that then. If you feel that's better than just the iPad.
And I try to use both. The one thing that we say is you just want to make sure, because there is a rule around making sure you're in the website. I think it's more often than every 7 days.
Oh yeah.
And so my understanding is if you use the app, it won't show that you did anything. So make sure that I use both depending on what I'm doing. But for definitely for chat, the app is a lot easier for me.
Okay, but for the timestamp purposes of your activity log, make sure you use the computer or the iPad. Okay.
Exactly. And I would just say the app on the iPhone at least is called MFL Platinum, so it might have a similar name when you go to look at in Android.
Will do.
Great. Well, thank you very much. That was a
Real
that was a
quick,
treat. Oh, we got more.
Yep. Just one last question for Rinku before we close out this session here. Where do you see yourself going this year? Are you going to try to rebuild this year? Are you going to try to make the playoffs, or what's your goal?
I think I'm going to fight. I think I'm going to try to fight. I think I've got some players, in this league, from what my capsular view of it is, it's interesting. You've only got 5 major offensive guys, but you've got 11 on defense. So it's kind of, to me, in a 12-man conference, a 16-man conference, how many major players are there going to be, major owners, I should say, how many major big guns is going to be 4 or 5 guys coming down the wire at the end? How can you fight with the big dogs? And so, my analysis thus far has been trying to add up and aggregately build a spreadsheet that kind of takes into effect these rosters and these teams. I know who the big dogs are in the AFC. I'm not a big dog. I'm a puppy dog right now. But there are some pieces. Jamie Collins, obviously, the moment I took over the team, his phone was ringing off the hook. He's obviously coveted because of production and cost and whatnot. Trevathan, there are some players on defense, but I think that's where, for me, it's going to be the key is if I can improve the defensive side of the football, because there's more starters there. If I could catch up that side, I feel good about the remnants of Carson Palmer, Des Bryant healthy, and the running back unit, and then some of the lottery tickets, the Rawls trade, bringing Josh Gordon in. That's obviously a big Georgia Powerball lottery ticket if that can hit. What's going on in Arizona with Michael Floyd and so forth. I feel my matchups on offense could be close to par with even some of the I would say 3, 4, 5 big guns, maybe not the number 1 or 2 best teams in the conference. But I think it's defense where I would need to really do some work. I'm probably 600-700 points per year behind in that regard. So if I can use money to get those guys on defense, I'd like to fight, and I think I could make a run. I like some of the players I have specifically in December to really go micro data, micro detail. I like some of the December schedules of some of the players on my team. I like some of the December fantasy playoff outlooks for some of my players. So I feel I could definitely make some hay in that regard. If I could scrappy-do make my way into the show, I could maybe kick Daphne and Thelma and Freddie in the kneecap and make my way through there and do something. So I think definitely leaning towards fighting would be the go. Yeah.
Very good.
If that was a roundabout old cartoon version of trying to explain my little scrappy-do team trying to grow up. So
That's excellent. Great.
Well, Rinku, hey, I wish you luck this season, and I hope we hear from you more.
Well, definitely will. Appreciate the opportunity to jump on the chat and meet and greet some faces. I'll be communicative as best as I can, as always, and bantering left, right, up, down, and cutthroat is great. No sensitivities, harms, fouls here, there. It's all fun, and try to get the trophy, try to win. Rings is rings, and fill the fingers. That's what it's about. So we'll do. We'll do.
Great. Thanks very much.
Have a great week, guys.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, that was Rinku of the Oakland Raiders.
Still there?
I'm here.
Okay. It went. I thought it went quiet for a minute when I was muting Winker as he was done. But all's good. I'm still learning this tool here. It's just so far so good. Assuming the recording works out well, I think we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, it's all good to me. Are you going to time crunch tonight? Do you need to end by a certain time, or you just want to keep going?
I could keep going. I mean, 5:30, or I guess for you 8:30 would be cool. Another 25 minutes, but if we get another guest in
Sounds
here,
good.
or gets we get going on some other topic, I can stay.
Okay, sounds good. Tampa Bay was supposed to be joining us. He's having some technical difficulties,
Okay.
so we'll keep rolling and see if we can get him in here.
Great.
We were talking about potential bust. We mentioned some rookies that, kind of had our eye on who may underperform. What about sophomore players that were taken last year's draft? You have anybody to throw in that mix? Or?
Well, as far as thinking about more busts, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. As far as sophomore, a lot of players, if they're not turning it on in the rookie season, they're doing it in their sophomore season. So who? I guess for me, I'll go first.
Sure.
You already mentioned him, Nelson Aguilar. Was very disappointing in year one.
Mm-hmm.
So Philly decided to bring in Dorial, maybe put some pressure on Aguilar. So it'll be interesting to see what he does with that. Also, Brashad Perryman, he didn't play even a snap his rookie season. So I think this is kind of a do or die year for him. Taken in the first round of the XFL draft last season. It's hard to put that much pressure on a guy who hasn't played, but when you're not getting any points year one, and if you only get quarter production year two, that puts a team in a bind. And also, I'm not high on Amir Abdullah. Detroit really doesn't have any other options, so he's got to be the guy at least this year. But for me, I'm just a personal opinion. I'm not a fan of Amir.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what this year brings for him. They've got, he's certainly not going to be the one catching too many passes. So yeah, definitely an interesting year for the backfield for Detroit. A couple people on my side that come to mind, a couple players. The first one that I was thinking about is you mentioned I think you mentioned Jalen Strong. You did a trade. He's one that honestly right now I think he's going to be a complete bust. Partially because didn't do very well last year and sort of got behind, but also they've drafted at least 2 or 3 wide receivers that are really good, so that really have a good chance. So he's in a little bit of a mess over there. Curious to see what happens there, but he's definitely high on my list of busts. Although I don't know if there's a lot of expectations now going in for him, but I think thinking about where he was drafted last year. The other one, I was thinking about from a second year perspective, trying to find him on my list here. Oh, where I think he could really shine is, and hopefully does, because it would certainly help my team. But Danny Shelton from Cleveland, defensive tackle. I feel like last year he kind of struggled, had a few good games, but it was like hit and miss. And I was reading a lot that there were definitely some things going on behind the scenes that maybe we didn't know as much about. But really looking for him to have a good year and get a more opportunity from the starting perspective. So we'll see where that goes. But he's on my team, and I'm hoping he can be the guy they thought they drafted. I think he was a 12th pick overall. So we'll see.
Yeah, so he, excuse me. You're saying you think he's in a breakout season?
I think there's definitely an opportunity for him. I think that, so it's kind of he's kind of one of my, defensive. I mean, obviously defensive tackle is not a sexy position or anything from a fantasy perspective, but certainly, you got to have good players across the board to win. And, he's one that I think can come back and do well.
Yeah, a couple of breakout or underrated players that I have, as far as rookies, would be Kenneth Dixon, which I know you don't want to hear that, having Forsett on your team. I think, by midway through the season, he could be the guy.
Yeah.
A lot of people are really high on Tyler Boyd there in Cincinnati. I'm not going to jump on that train yet.
Yeah.
So I don't really have him on the breakout rookie.
Do they have him at number 2 now, or on the depth chart?
I haven't looked at Cincinnati's depth chart. Another guy I have would be Michael Thomas for the Saints. Could be a potential breakout player. And I don't know if this guy would be considered necessarily a breakout, but Sterling Shepard for the Giants is looking really good in training camp. He was a guy I was very high on going into the draft. So I look for that. Maybe DeAndre Washington in Oakland backing up. My mind went blank. Anyways, backing up there, and also Jordan Howard for Chicago could get the start, before halfway through the season. They're already saying he's going to get goal line carries. So those are a couple guys, rookies. As far as sophomores, a guy I just traded for, Green Beckham, I think he could be in for a big season, at least compared to his last year numbers. Devontae Parker there in Miami. Kevin White was hurt all last year. He's definitely the number 2 guy in Chicago. And also, I wrote this guy down, but I wrote him down hesitantly. Duke Johnson for Cleveland. With RG3 in there, I think that could really open things up for Duke. That's the only reason I put him in there is because of RG. So I'd like to see what he does. Also, Tevin Coleman is putting some heat on my mind can't think right now, Atlanta running back. So look for Tevin Coleman, if the starter there stumbles at all, that's driving me nuts. What's the name I'm looking for? Atlanta starting running back?
Freeman. Devonta.
Freeman, there we go. Devontae Freeman. If he stumbles at all, I look for Tevin Coleman to at least get up there and split carries with him.
Yeah, you're reminding me. In my big David Johnson trade, one of the reasons why I did that because I realized at the time, and I'll get to where this makes some sense. Jeremy Langford. I was realizing at that point the Bears were talking. There's some talk about them looking to draft a running back high, which they didn't actually really do, but they definitely were not as happy with Langford as maybe people would have thought, knowing that he potentially would be in line to start. But if you really kind of look deeper into his stats, he didn't break a lot of tackles. He didn't make he made like one big play, and that was pretty much what made his stats look as good as they did. And so I was really worried about him. So I was like, I gotta, his value might be the highest right now. And so he was part of that trade. And I traded a lot of other things, draft picks and what have you, in the deal. But he was the reason I was like, I'm way too nervous about him. Be curious. I don't know if Dolphins is out there, but love to hear what you think about the trade now. But I paid enough for Johnson that even if Langford does nothing, it's probably not a bad deal for the Dolphins, but in the long run. But we'll see. But he's definitely one that I look to be a bust. I don't know. We'll see. You just never know. He could break out. I don't know if there's any great signs, but I think that the workload looks like it might be shared more than people think.
Yeah, and I actually made a bet with Seattle, who owns him on the NFC side, that Jordan Howard, just like a friendly bet, but that Jordan Howard would be the starter at least by week 8. So I look forward to seeing how that plays out. He's an IU guy, Jordan Howard. My dad, owner of GM of Detroit Lions, he actually lives there in Bloomington. So he's a big IU fan. He knew what Jordan Howard was capable of.
Yeah.
I was trying to get ahead of him in the second round to draft him because I knew he was going to take him, and couldn't pull a trade. So he belongs on the Lions in the NFC. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. And Jordan Howard, I've heard some mixed results on him too. So my guy on the Bears is Kadeem Carey. He played for University of Arizona, so I'd love to see him get a chance. But I think he got hurt, maybe it was a concussion or something recently in the last game. But he's the guy I'm hoping will take charge. Not that I have him on my team, just more alumni love, I guess.
There you go. So yeah, that kind of wraps up that topic. Let's move to kind of talked about Taxi and I already. What about backup players this year? I was explaining to you a couple of days ago.
Mhm.
Last year, to start the season, we were able to use 2 backup players, one for offense, one for defense. You could put your player in there in case, you got Jamal Charles who plays the Sunday night game and you don't know if he's going to play or not. He's questionable, but if he does play, you want to play him, So
Yeah.
that's what that backup spot is for. To make a long story short, I kind of ruined that last year. It ended up getting taken away.
You can tell that story?
Not yeah, what time is it? Yeah, we got time. Hold on a second. Let me all right, so last year I had wide receiver Steve Smith who week 4 maybe broke his ribs. They listed the guy as questionable all week up till Thursday night games. Actually until Friday morning he was listed as questionable. So I had him in my lineup. I ended up taking him out before Thursday night's game. Put somebody else in. I had Andre Johnson as my backup player who played Thursday night game. And that was his best game of the year, scored over 30 fantasy points for Andre Johnson did. And so I was like, damn, I just missed out on the guy's best performance of the year. So I checked the rules. I didn't do anything illegal. Competitive. That's what it is. And yeah, I regret doing it. Pissed a lot of people off, but in the end, you try to get every competitive advantage you can. That's why the Patriots are so hated. So again, I put Thursday night during that game, I put Steve Smith back in, who was listed still as questionable. You can start a guy who is questionable and replace him with the backup, or could replace him with the backup points. So I would have got 30 points instead of, Steve Smith's 0. But Friday morning they switched him to out. I was at work, obviously. All the guys on chat were giving shit, but I wasn't even on the website to change it. I wasn't going to start him when he was out. That's completely illegal. But so yeah, I changed it Friday when I got off of work. But the shitstorm had already started. So that's what kind of ruined the years. So yeah,
So
apologize to all the veteran owners for ruining your backup players last year. But I wasn't trying to do anything illegal by any means. So.
Well, I know that when we talked about this on Monday, and you guys were trying to figure out what our game plan was for this hangout, but you mentioned there were 2 backup players last year. There's 1 defense, 1 offense, and this year you said it's 1. I haven't read too deep into all that. What's the big change, would you say, from that they made after sort of the infamous Steve Smith event, as far as a change?
Yes, I'm not following you here. You mean change in the backup player position?
Yeah, and how you can use it and what have you.
Yeah. So after that happened, the backup player got taken away for the rest of the year. No more backups, which I guess in my opinion helps guys like you and me who are on this site day in and day out. Last thing we do before we go to bed, first thing we do when we wake up. We are just competitive, so we know who potentially who's going to play and who's not going to play. The backup position to me last year kind of guys didn't have to pay attention. They didn't have to care about, so if this guy's going to play, who cares because I got this guy as a backup. So to me, I prefer no backups, but I'm fine with having a backup, I guess, this season. So yeah, going into this season, I can't remember. I read it at the beginning of the year. Backup position. Just off the top of my head, there's 1 backup position for offense or defense. You can only put 1 guy in there. So you got to choose. If you got a questionable linebacker, I'd put linebacker in there as a backup. The guy cannot go in the guy who's questionable can't even go in for one snap, whether he has, 0 points or, if he's in there for one snap, he's placed. So I think it made it hard for commissioner to keep an eye on 64 guys who potentially could be back, replaced with backups, trying to see if they played or not. That was a lot of work on his end. So yourself and I and a couple other guys are trying to help him out in areas like that this year.
Right.
IR, taxi squad, just take a little bit of pressure off of his duties. So yeah, going down to one definitely helps. The research and the time put in by the front office team. But yeah, as far as my opinion, I would prefer no backups. And if you do have to use a backup this year, I think it's by Tuesday at a certain time, 10 a.m. or something, that you have to post to the message board. Commissioner will create a thread that you want to use him or you cannot.
Got Tuesday after the game's end is what you're saying. To say
Correct.
that I want to have him replace this person who had no snaps or whatever. Okay, but and it has to be, like if you had like you said, you'd have a linebacker that was questionable. You would have had to have had a backup as a linebacker that would replace it. Whereas if you had a couple of questionable guys and the linebacker was the one that played and the running back was the one that was hurt and you didn't have the backup as a running back, you wouldn't be able to use any of those points, right? They have to be the same position is what I'm saying.
I lost you.
Well, I'm just saying they have to be the backup that you want to replace can only replace someone that's the same position. It's not just trying to get points, right?
No, that is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
You were breaking up for most of that, but I caught the tail end. And yes. So, if you put in a linebacker for your backup, he can only replace a linebacker. I do believe. Don't quote me on that. Maybe commission can confirm. I'll double check the rules later on. Maybe post to the message board, but yeah, that's how it was. Well, because you have to stay in within. We have starting lineups, so you have to be in one of those starting lineups. So you can't start 4 linebackers, put a linebacker in for your backup, and replace a cornerback with a 5th linebacker. That can't be. Yeah,
and for me, I think I'll obviously have a backup every week and figure out how I want to manage that just in case something happens. But at the same time, it's only going to be an elite. Like if I have 3 guys that are questionable, I'm going to put the guy that's the elite guy and get a backup for them because they're obviously going to be a much going to affect my team in a negative way if I don't back them up versus other ones where I can just put someone in who's probable, what have you, is going to play and not have any concerns about that. So, that's definitely definitely want to make sure you make the right call on who the backup is for sure.
Right. Well, it's about 5:30 your time. You want to keep going, or you want to save the rest of the stuff for another day, or?
I'm going to do one more question.
Sure. Let's. What do you want to do? You want to discuss AFC power rankings, or you want to discuss the schedule that you just? Let's just discuss the schedule. How you came up with the schedule,
sure.
And maybe some key games that you have circled on your calendar.
Well, the way I'd say it is, so there will be an article where it's not very long, where I kind of talk about the pitfalls of trying to create a schedule. I had to use a couple different methods. Finally, the second one worked, but overall, the idea of the schedule was I wanted to align it with the NFL schedule to the best I could, as far as our teams playing, the same teams that they're playing in the NFL schedule. And so the main thing on the NFL schedule is they play their own division teams twice. So that's definitely a rule. They play, each division plays the exact same cross conference. So if they're in AFC, they play the exact same division. In the NFC, all the teams from their own division do that. And then there's it's kind of random to a certain extent, some rotation randomness to it as far as the within conference games. So I wanted to make sure I mirrored that best I could. And I was able to get AFC to work perfectly. Every team that you see on that schedule is playing the exact same teams in real life. maybe not in the exact same week, but at some point. And then the other thing I thought would be interesting, and we can, I think it's kind of interesting, but I wanted to have the games versus their own division. I wanted to have the first game to be against them would be basically our first 3 games, which we play a doubleheader early on and what have you. But I wanted to have the first kind of 3 games that they play would be against their own division, and the last 3 games against their own division. So what ends up happening is in the last week, they actually play. You play. It's 1 week, and you play a triple header against your entire division. So that'll be very interesting. So I did that, and then in the middle of the season is where I put in the cross conference, so like AFC playing NSC games. Those are all the middle kind of 4 games of the season, 4 weeks of the season, and then sprinkled before and after that are the within conference. So I wanted to have a nice structure to it, and it's in the current design. We can shuffle up the teams and what have you, but I thought it'd be great to be able to try to mirror the real NFL schedule as the best that we could. So that was the idea.
Yeah, and that's how it was set up last year too. I mean, the last week of the season didn't have a triple header.
Yeah.
They were all individually weeks against your division rivals. So that makes make or break pretty much almost every team that has a shot at the playoffs.
Well, I think
that week right there is a circle date for every team that's going to be borderline playoffs.
For sure, and I think that it also can hurt you, like if you're having a hard time against your own division team, or if you have a bad week. Not only could you obviously maybe not win your division, but could hurt you as a wild card.
Yeah,
so it'll be interesting.
Otherwise, I got like I said last year, I started 0-6. I promise you, my number one goal is to not start 0-6.
What would you say was the big problem in your with the first 6 losses?
A lot of injuries. My defensive ends. I think within the first 6 weeks, I had this wrote down somewhere. I don't remember where I had it. But,
did you have Jamal?
No, I traded for Jamal at the end of the season just so I could franchise tag him.
Okay.
But defensive end, I lost 3 or 4 games within a matter of single-digit points, I believe. And my defensive end, the first 3 weeks, I couldn't get. We start 2 defensive ends, and I couldn't even get 3 points combined out of my 2 defensive ends. So that again, that's why I drafted Bosa because that irritated me so bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of close losses. But my number one goal is to avoid that this season, and the way the schedule is set up, I think I can. I think my opinion, the first, let's see, let's go first 8 weeks. My first 8 weeks, I think I will go 1, 2. I think I'm going to call it 6-2 first 8 weeks.
Okay.
Or sorry, no, there's some double headers in there, isn't there? I didn't count as double headers. Hold on a second.
Yeah, because you probably have 10 games, 9 games in the first. Well, at least 10 games in the first 8 weeks.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it 5-3 at least minimum. My opinion. First 8 games. I play Lions, Vikings, Packers. Say 2-1 in those. Then I got Seahawks, Bucks, Redskins. I think I can sweep those 3 games. Then Colts, Titans, Jags. Maybe call that 1-2. I'm not sure I can beat Titans and Colts. Unless I can make some trades. But
I'm sure you can.
What about you?
Colts. I'm guessing
I think
Colts score.
He just. I know you saw. He just posted on the message board. He said, "Ask Sean why he won't trade with me. I think he's afraid of me."
I think it's the other way around. He's not ready to step up and do a trade yet.
But yeah, I look forward to the season starting. And what about you? Where do you have your first 8 games?
Well, I play against my own division. I think that I've got I think my division is probably weaker than maybe some of the other divisions out there. So I've got a pretty good chance to win my first three. I think I got the Bills and Jaguars and Raiders. After that, I think got a pretty good opportunity to get off to a good start. I think my toughest game is going to be to start the season is going to be week 5 against the Commish because I'm going to be under a lot of pressure to kick his ass. So I'm looking forward to that. I've got that circled. But I think I've got a really good opportunity to get off to a good start. I think 6-2 is very reasonable. I think 7-1, there's a shot there. I'm not as familiar with the Eagles or the Giants, but I do think the NFC teams that I'm playing are going to be tough. It's the Eagles, Giants, Redskins. Those are going to be probably my first 3 of my first kind of 8-game tough games. So that should be interesting. And Cowboys too. I don't know if I mentioned them. So yeah, it's going to be. I think I have a good chance to get off to a good start. If I don't get off to a good start, then my team just sucks. That's kind of just how it goes.
Yeah. I play both of the kind of league-wide favorites to win the Super Bowl this year, and Cowboys and Colts on the AFC side.
Yeah.
I
have a little.
I also.
Okay. Yeah, you said you
I
played.
would say
yeah.
I also play 49ers, who is very tough and made it to the Super Bowl last year for the NFC. So, yeah, I got a pretty tough schedule. I look forward to it and see if I can whoop some ass.
Great. And I'll just breaking news. It's probably not that exciting because I don't write very well. But Commissioner is going to get my article posted tomorrow, so you can read the exciting schedule maker's view of building the schedule.
Awesome. All right. I guess that'll do it for now, unless you want to keep going.
Great. No, I think we'll stop here. Probably good. We don't have anybody on ready to go to talk right now. We had at least 5 or so people watching us for most of the time. So we'll get the video of this posted tomorrow morning and sent out to everybody and see what the feedback is. But had a good time. I think a couple of good guests, and thanks very much for your patience on me trying to figure this Hangout thing.
No problem. Before we go, I got to give a shout out. Detroit, again, my dad and I host a radio show that's going to be bringing the Blitz next Thursday night. You know what? We play first game week 1. Don't even think about asking me who the hell to start because I'm not going to tell you. He tends to do that. Hey, who should I start? Or is this a good trade offer? Or, you know what? Yeah, I'll tell you to start. I'll tell you to start all your backups. So, little rivalry going there. So yeah, it was fun. We'll get together and maybe see if we can put another show together and talk about future plans. But I guess until then, thanks for watching, everybody.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the week. I know we got a show tomorrow with a couple of other owners, and should be fun. I think we got 4. I think Matt said there's 4 shows in about a week's time, so it's going to be an exciting week leading up to the beginning of the season in a couple of weeks. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, see ya.